Just for the record, we're going to do Coast to Coast Pinball tonight from the smallest state in the Union, the 13th state, the ocean state, Rhode Island. But I will have you know that this isn't even really an island. I mean, there might be some islands, but I'm not on an island. Anyway, Coast to Coast Pinball, episode number 8. Thanks for being here. Let's go. Welcome to episode 8 of Coast to Coast Pinball. Appreciate you being here to listen. My name is Nate Shivers. It's July 21st, 2013. I say my name clearly because it's kind of funny. Josh over at Pinball Soul, who's got a great website and a very cool podcast, he gave me this fantastic kind of shout out on his webpage with our logo and everything up on it, and kind of gave a little rundown of the last episode. He thought my name was Nick, though, so I'm Nick on Pinball Soul if you're interested, but we'll be Nate here tonight. So anyway, I hope you're all doing well. It's Sunday night. I have been in New England for the past 5 or 6 days doing some work. Last couple of days I've been playing some pinball. I spent the last 2 nights up on the Massachusetts-New Hampshire border, very close to the Pinball Wizard Arcade in Pelham, New Hampshire, which we're going to talk about quite a bit. That's been exciting. I'm down in Rhode Island tonight. I don't even know if there's any pinball in Rhode Island. I haven't looked. I had a pretty busy day. And I have a very early morning tomorrow. I got to go out to Martha's Vineyard, which is an island. Probably a vineyard too, but it's an island for sure. So anyway, this is like kind of a long trip. I'm going to try and squeeze a little bit more pinball in maybe Tuesday night. I fly back to San Diego Wednesday. But anyway, really appreciate the shout outs from people on Twitter, the comments. It's been great. The downloads are pretty fantastic. I gotta say, it's pretty neat to see everyone downloaded it. I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. So we're going to jump right into a little bit of a trip report on the Pinball Wizard Arcade.
Trip reports.
So there are not a lot of places in the United States that have over 100 pinball machines. I may not know of a few that are out there, but that I've frequented, I know of 3. I've been to the Silver Ball Museum in Jersey. I've been to the Pinball Hall of Fame in Las Vegas, and the Pinball Wizard Arcade in Pelham, New Hampshire. I'm sure there's a few others that I would love to hear about, but maybe go to even. But that's kind of the trifecta for me in my travels where I've been so far. And the Pinball Wizard Arcade is unique in a couple ways. So it's located in southern New Hampshire, just across the Massachusetts border. So it's kind of in between the cities of Boston and Manchester, New Hampshire. It's right about 45 minutes from the airport in Boston, from Logan. And it's sort of a kind of a rural town. I mean, I guess Pelham's a town of some size, but it's mostly just, kind of real green, leafy tree area with a few sort of older strip malls along the highway. It's kind of like a highway town with lots of houses on like larger lots throughout the area. And it's not in a city at all. It's sort of out of the way. And the first time I went there a year or so ago, I was just really surprised how out of the way it was. But you can get there from a lot of different places, and it's fantastic. What I really love about the Pinball Wizard Arcade is their focus, pinball-wise at least. I mean, obviously the name is pinball. They actually have more video games in the arcade than they do pinball machines. They claim to have 113 games. I think that number fluctuates here and there. And their list on their website is slightly out of date because there's some games listed that aren't there. And I think there's a couple games that are there that are not listed. But all the games, I don't believe, unless I'm wrong here, I don't know that there's more than 2 or 3 EM games in the whole place, if that. I didn't spend a lot of time on the older games this trip, so my mind's a little fuzzy on some of those were just early solid states or late EMs, but it's mainly focused on the solid state era, which is my wheelhouse. I love it. I was kind of writing a list of sort of going through what they have, and if you look at like the top 20 on like Pinside rankings, here's some of the games that they have there to play that are in the top 20. They have a Medieval Madness, they have Addams Family, Twilight Zone, Lord of the Rings, Spider-Man, Tales of the Arabian Nights, Indiana Jones, Theater of Magic, Star Trek The Next Generation, Circus Voltaire, Whitewater. They have a new Tron. They have a nice Funhouse, Creature from the Black Lagoon. The list goes on and on and on. Tons of games. I've literally gone there and just sort of picked out 4 or 5 games, and that's all I played for that evening, just to sort of focus. Because I found sometimes, and maybe I'd love to hear if anybody out there listening has this problem when they go to these sort of like mecca places where there's lots of games and they bounce around and you're just trying to play a lot and take it all in. I don't play very well when I do that because every set of flippers is so different and every game is so different, and the speeds, I usually play pretty poorly. These games are not on free play. I wish it was on free play, so I could just sort of get into the groove of some of the games. I would gladly pay $15 an hour or $20 an hour, whatever it would cost to be in there during prime time, to just have free play. That would be fantastic. So they are on tokens at the Pinball Wizard. What's nice though is if you buy $1, $5, or $10 for the tokens, they're just a quarter each for a token, so it's standard pricing. But if you put a $20 bill in their token machines, you actually get 100 tokens out. So if I quickly did the math on that, I think that comes out to 20 cents per token. So when you're putting 2 tokens in a game, you're actually paying 40 cents instead of 50 cents, which is a deal in my book. The vast majority of the pinball machines are on set to 2 or 3 tokens. There are a limited few that are set to 4. I know Medieval Madness is set to 4. Lord of the Rings is set to 4. A couple of the newer games are set to 4. I would have Medieval Madness set to 4 also, and they have some wear on their Medieval Madness down around the flippers, and I actually was a little shocked at the condition of that game. If I were them, I would be pulling that thing out all the time and cleaning and fixing it up. I mean, that game's worth $10,000 or more, right? So, but it's cool that they have it. It's cool that it's there to play. There's those are becoming harder and harder to find out in the wild. There's very few out there. So they have a lot of like really classic A-list titles, which is cool. They also have some rare games. They have a Bonsai Run. They have some games with like lower build counts that maybe weren't popular, maybe for good reason. I was just kind of like stirring around their list and looking at stuff. Some older game. They have an older game, Cactus Jacks, which there was only 1,900 of those made. So there's one out in the wild there. Bonsai Run, I think, only had 1,700 made. They have a Bugs Bunny birthday ball, I believe is what it's called. Birthday Bash, maybe. That's a game, less than 2,500 of those built. Weird game. I did play it. Odd game. The key trick, if you've never seen a Bugs Bunny game, is there's no right out lane, which I thought was funny because we were just talking last episode about a game that I saw that didn't seemingly have a left out lane, the highway game. But there's no right out lane on the Bugs Bunny game. But the main trick is there's this lowered play surface down in the upper right with a flipper that flips the ball back up towards you, which I've never seen that before. That was kind of neat. You're not flipping it towards the back of the box, you're flipping it back towards the player. Kind of neat. Kind of gimmicky. Not a fabulous game by any means. They have a Whodunit there. Not a lot of Whodunits out there. That's a game with only 2,400 built. There's a Bad Cats there. We were talking about Bad Cats a little bit last episode. And it's pretty neat. And then it never occurred to me, and I've been there half a dozen times, maybe even 7 or 8 times. It never occurred to me until this trip. They have loosely organized the games sort of by designer. I noticed, like, we were talking last episode about Bram Stoker's Dracula and how it was made by Barry Orsler, designed by Barry Orsler, who, was with Bally back at that time period. Well, they're right next to each other, and then I think Bad Cats is just a few down from there. So it's actually, it's pretty neat the way that some of that's, lined up like that. Not completely, but there were a bunch of Steve Ritchie games sort of all kind of in one area, and that's pretty neat. I like that. So yeah, they have a Wizard of Oz, and I listened to, I believe, 2 episodes back of Pinball Soul, Josh's podcast, and he had just gone up, because he lives in the Boston area, I believe, and he had just gone up to Pinball Wizard and was excited to, I think, play Wizard of Oz, but it wasn't working. Well, I got there, and it's still not working. And I don't know what that means. I don't know if that means they aren't working on that particular game for some reason, or if it keeps breaking, or if maybe Jersey Jack has that game in there on some sort of consignment or loan and doesn't want them to work on it. I don't know. It's just sort of interesting that they've got one of the hottest, most talked about pinball machines in the past few years sitting there dark, unplugged. It's kind of sad. Overall condition of the games, I feel like it's gone down a touch since I was last there. I felt there was a lot of sticky flippers and things like that. Everybody knows I want a Doctor Who really badly, so that's right where I went when I got there. I went honestly a few times over the weekend. And the first time I got there, I walked right to Doctor Who and started playing, and the right flipper was just sticking up. It was driving me crazy. You couldn't hit shots, and it was catching. And I walked away from it sort of upset because I was like, man, that was one of the games I really want to play it a bunch to see that, is this a game I want to spend a couple grand on soon? Well, I walked away from it, and I think one of the guys there working saw me sort of having issues with it, and the game was turned off when I looked at it. It was dark, and excuse me. And then a couple hours, I was there a long time, I looked over and it was back on, and they had sort of adjusted it and fixed it up pretty good. And I played it a few more times, but it started sticking again. So that was Friday night late. Today, Sunday, when I got back in there, it was working fine. They actually had fixed it. I think it stuck up completely on me one time, but overall it was returning to where it needed to be, and I could make the shots. So I did find that on a few other games. I know on the Data East Star Trek game, the flippers were pretty wonky. Some other games had some just sticky flippers. There were a few dirty play fields. They were going through and cleaning games, though. I did see them pulling glass off some games, cleaning things out, especially late Friday night. But overall, I feel like they're not quite as clean and nice as they could be. It's a lot of games, though. It's over 100 games. I will say this. The only games that were not working, that were actually turned off while I was there, was, like I said, Wizard of Oz and their version of The Shadow. The Shadow was not ever working this whole weekend. So that could be a parts issue or something. But other than that, everything was on. And that's pretty impressive, because I've been at the Pinball Hall of Fame in Vegas before, where there's, a dozen, 15 games turned off, and it's sort of sad. I've never seen the haunted house at the Hall of Fame working, which is unfortunate, because I've actually never played that game. It's a game that I love the theme of, looking at it and reading about it, but I've never played a haunted house, so got that on my bucket list. I played a bunch of different games. I tried to focus. I really tried to focus in on Doctor Who. I focused in on Champion Pub, which we're going to do highlights and lowlights of in this episode. I spent some time on Tales from the Crypt. It's another game I sort of, in the back of my head, think I might want for myself sometime. I tried to play Tales of the Arabian Nights a bunch, but it was eating me alive, and I gave up, I guess. I did feel that some of the games, some of the game's levels were off too, and I do complain about that sometimes, games not being leveled. I think that's just such a basic thing. You've got to have your games leveled. I definitely saw some balls coming straight and then rolling left or right when they shouldn't have been. And then I also felt a few of the games were just set up real steep, like too steep. So I'd be interested to talk to them and see what their kind of science behind all that is, if there is any. I'm not totally sure. But like I said, for the most part, stuff's playable. I didn't see, a lot of burned out lights or parts not working or things like that, and that's great. And I didn't have a lot of issues with like balls getting stuck in like habit trails or any place. Sometimes you see games that just have little quirks where it doesn't kill the gameplay, but it sort of hinders the fun of it. I don't get that from them. Their games are definitely looked over enough. So it's a fantastic place. I definitely encourage you to go check it out. It's in the same parking lot as a movie theater, so they get some of that crowd comes in. They were not overly busy at any given time. For the most part, there was probably somewhere between 5 and 10 people playing pinball machines. So you really can play anything you want while you're there. Most of the people actually were over playing the newer games, some of the newer Sterns. They don't have anything super new other than Wizard of Oz. The latest game they have is a Tron Pro. They have an Avatar, and they have a Spider-Man and a Family Guy. Those are like the recent Stern titles that they had. Oh, you know what? I just remembered the Family Guy was not on either. It was turned off. That is right. So there was 3. So they don't have the newer stuff. I feel like they've been open a couple years, I think, and I don't know that they've bought anything new since then, because you don't see, like, AC/DC would be, you'd think that would be there since that's been such a popular game. And you're starting to see Metallica hit a lot of the popular pinball places just because that has a lot of buzz right now. But they're content with what they got, and they do have a lot, so it's fantastic. So definitely check that out. So I want to jump into a game that I'll probably never own because it has a low production run and it's expensive and it scares me a little bit. Let's talk about Champions Pub.
Highlights and lowlights.
or the Champion Pub, as it is termed. I've called it Champion's Pub forever, but it's called the Champion Pub. This is a game, it's a Williams game. It may be tagged Midway, actually. It's kind of in that transitional period in the late 90s. It came out in April of 1998. So this game came out right after Circus Voltaire and right before Monster Bash. So that's the era of Champion Pub. 1,369 units of this guy, so it's rare. It was designed by a guy whose name you will not probably recognize if you don't really know the intricacies of like pinball history, especially 90s pinball history. The designer's name is Pete Piotrowski, and he was sort of a newer design guy at Midway Williams in the late 90s, and he'd worked on some other games leading up, and then Champion Pub was sort of his design. He'd done some art for some other games, and Champion Pub was not a success. It got criticized when it came out by a lot of operators because things broke on it. And as we go through some of the highlights of Champion Pub, also think of these as possible lowlights back in 1998 when the game shipped for operators who were having trouble with these things. And these could also be considered lowlights for someone today because there may not be parts and they may be harder to work on. But if you read like deep in, look for interviews and stuff on Pete Piotrowski, he went right from this to Pinball 2000, and he was actually working on what would have been the fourth Pinball 2000 game had it kept going. They did obviously the first two with Revenge from Mars, Episode 1, Star Wars, and then a game called, I think, Wizard Blocks was to be third, and then the fourth game, little known fact, was going to be a Playboy game. So picture Pinball 2000 with a video screen and Playboy. Pretty interesting stuff. So Champion Pub, 2 flippers, and you can't help but notice when you first walk up to it, it's beautiful artwork. It has a mirrored back glass. It's like a bar room. It's like a 1920s Irish bar room scene. And it's like a fighting game. It's like a boxing game, like fighting in the pub. Like they used to have bar fights. That was a thing. My father was, an older dude, and he used to tell me about, they just would have fist fights in bars back in the day. So that's what this game is sort of centered around. It's a very original theme, and it's such a breath of fresh air to me in the day and age of everything being a licensed theme, whether it's The Wizard of Oz or Metallica or Avatar or whatever video game, not video game, but comic book hero pinball machine we're looking at. To see something like the Champion Pub, which is so unique and so just sort of out of left field, is very, very cool. I have always thought of it sort of as like Mike Tyson's Punch-Out done in the 20s, done on a pinball machine. It's sort of that idea because they call you the kid. 2 flippers, like I said. The big centerpiece toy of this game, and you walk up to the machine, you may not realize what it is, but there's like a punching bag in kind of the middle of the playfield, middle right side of the playfield, with these 2 green sort of like curved ramps that lead up to it. And that's the heavy bag. Like you're a boxer and trainer and you're punching the heavy bag. Well, that heavy bag actually spins 180 degrees and reveals on the back this like grizzled Irish fighter looking guy, the boxer that you're going to fight. And that will be the guy who represents the different fighters in the game that you go against. And his arms actually move up and down like he's swinging punches at you. It's pretty freaking cool, I have to say. It's pretty awesome. There's only one ramp in the game. They call it the balcony shot, and this ramp goes up around behinds, and that's where you do your ball locks and stuff. There's a pretty unique feature on the right side of this game that I've never seen done quite like this. It's the right out lane actually runs about halfway up the machine so that you can enter it in a couple different spots. And if you enter the out lane, really high up, there's a bunch of pins or pegs as your ball falls down, sort of like playing Plinko with your pinball, and it can go to 4 different final destinations. One being out into the playfield, like to the left of the right slingshot. One can be to the right in lane, which is fine. One is the right out lane, which we don't want. And then the fourth place it can go is back to the original ball launcher lane. This has an auto plunger. And the skill shot in this game is sort of, you hold the plunger button down, and then it starts spinning different prizes on the DMD, and you release it, and whatever you release it on is the prize you get. So that's the strategy. It's all timing based, and after that, it just auto plunges for you. obviously it's a boxing game, so the whole object of this thing is that you're trying to, like, fight the fighters in the bar, win the fights and win the money and win the points and yada yada yada. The way to sort of win the game and get to the wizard mode is to win 5 fights, and each fighter is a little bit different. Obviously you're still fighting the same guy for each one, but on the DMD it gives you a little rundown of who each one is, and they talk to you. And this game has a ton of custom audio quotes. I think it has like something like 300 scripted quotes from all these like 11 different fighters in the game. It's pretty neat. Your trainer talks to you. The training is a big part of this game. 2 of the most unique features in this are these 2 little mini, I hate to call them playfields exactly, but they're sort of mini playfields. One's in the upper left corner of the box, one's up in the upper right corner of the box, and these are 2 of the 3 training modules. And the one in the upper left is pretty cool. Your ball gets set up on this little platform, and there's this metal, bent metal, like wire. I don't want to say wire because it's thick. It's, like a post, but it's bent to like look like a jump rope. And so it starts spinning, and you use your flipper button to actually, the magnet pops the ball in the air. So you're actually skipping the ball up in the air over this jump rope as it goes. I've played this game in a couple different spots, and one time I played it where it was really easy to do. The one at the Pinball Wizard was really tough because the thing was a little bit weak, might have a dirty coil up there. The ball wasn't jumping really high, and I could only ever get 4 or 5 jumps at a time. But you want to complete your training modules. In the upper right-hand corner, you have the speed bag. So when your ball gets diverted up there, which you hit from the ramp shot when it's lit, you go to the speed bag. You have 2 little boxing gloves up there that punch the ball into the speed bag, and it's just kind of a timing thing. You get it going real fast to complete that one. The third training module is you hit the big heavy mainstay, heavy bag over and over to complete the heavy bag when that's lit. And all those training things build you up to your fights. And once a fight starts, or once you get your health meter built up to where a fight can start, then all the start fight inserts light up. I think there's 3 of them, possibly 4. Maybe there's 3, and then if you lose your ball and it's lit, the plunge will start it. So you have 3 different shots to start your fight, and then it locks your ball, holds your ball, turns the fighter around, all dramatic. Whoever it is threatens you, tells you he's going to kick your butt, and then the fight starts. And you have to deplete his energy meter by hitting him with the pinball or hitting the ramps that are the jab ramp to the left and then the trail to the right before he depletes your energy meter. Or you drain your ball, which is an instant KO knockout for you. It's just pretty cool. It's really neat. It's one of my favorite things in pinball. I just love that late 90s era where they were getting really good at doing cool toys. Because like I said, this is Circus Voltaire Monster Bash era. So it's pretty fantastic. Another unique feature of this game that is sort of a throwback to like old school pinball is that down the middle between the flippers, when each new ball starts, you get a raised, like a plastic raised bumper that blocks the ball from being able to drain down the middle. It's like a blockade right there, kind of like old school pinball had, with some flippers that would go close together or things would raise and pop up, and that lasts for a few seconds. And if you drain down the side lanes while that is up, you'll get your ball back. The one problem I had with this particular game is the flippers were really, really strong to a fault, I think, because I was getting a lot of air balls, and oftentimes these air balls would come off these 2 green ramps where I was shooting and hitting the fighter or the bag, and I had the ball keep bouncing over my flippers and draining. And even when the thing is raised, if you drain down the middle and not on an out lane, you don't get your ball back, which I was annoyed at. But that's pretty cool, and when each fight starts too, that also raises for a time being. So if you watch the timing of the flashing, light inside this blockade, if it's about to go down or not. So you can actually let the ball come to rest and really take aim at whatever shot you're trying to hit. You might be trying to hit the ramp shot, or there's a little left like sunken shot that lights up with different things like extra balls or start the fight. So it's pretty handy. It's neat. It's different. You don't see it very often, which I like. I think there's 3 multi-ball settings in this game, and the other kind of side to this game is, you want to win the fights, and once you win 5 of these fights, beat 5 fighters, you become the pub champion. And once you're the pub champion, every fight from then on is what they call a cash fight, which is really cool because this does something that I don't think I know of any other game does this. So you got your 5 fights, you're the champion, and now you start another fight. You get to choose which of the fighters you want to fight, and you get to bet your points against that guy. and if you beat him, you win that many points, and you win like a 2.5, I think it's 2.5 million point bonus. So it's really neat. And you can have these giant swings. You can also lose all your points, because you're going to have a lot of them by that point if you've beaten 5 guys. So that's pretty awesome. And then to get up to the wizard mode, you have to collect 5 jewels to put in the championship belt, like a boxing or wrestling type championship belt. And the 5 jewels are various different things you get throughout the game, like completing all the training is one of them. Getting all 3 multi-ball modes is one of them. But if you get all 5 jewels and you have 5 fights won, then you get to the ultimate challenge. And I won't spoil that for you. And I won't spoil it for me either, because I've never done it. I've just looked it up and read about it. So really, really cool, though. So I think if you had this game in a home situation where you had friends over, a really cool multiplayer game, especially when you get up into the cash fights, because you can, you could have huge swings by betting a certain amount of points. I just think it's neat. I think that's really, really something you've never seen before in a pinball machine. You may never see again. So that's like the highlight list. I mean, the lowlights to this game, to me, it's expensive. Your best bet is going to be to find a deal on one of these at $4,000. I think that's realistic. But generally, you're going to pay 5 to 6 right now out on the market. There's not a lot of them. That's going to be an issue. The fighter gets pretty beat up. His arms get cracked and broken, so there could be some parts issues. So I read a lot of reviews of this game before I wanted to review it myself, and I read a common thing from some players who just said, the scoring's too out of whack. There's too many non-level scoring issues. Because this, remember, this game came out at a time where, Midway Williams was sort of looking for a success. The end was near, as we might say. And, they weren't spending their days working to get the code right on games they had already released and hadn't done well. So this game has some exploits with scoring that you can kind of run up the score. That could, you're probably not going to see this in a big tournament anywhere. That doesn't bother me, though, because it's so fun. I'm trying to win the fights. I'm trying to get the jewels for the belt. It's just so cool. I do, some people feel like it's too gimmicky, like the jump rope and the speed bag and all that. It's like too many toys, because there's a lot going on there. It's a little clustered of a playfield. I don't mind it, though. I think you shoot the bag enough times. Definitely not a flow game by any means. Like, there's no orbits in this game. There's nothing. I mean, you're making a shot and then it's coming back down to your flippers. There's no like repeated things in a row and a row and a row. Although I do like when I get a fight going and you're hitting those green ramps that sort of ramp up towards the boxer. I think it's actually really fun and fast and cool. So, in a home environment, if it was your only pinball machine, I could see you getting tired of this one pretty quick, because it doesn't have the ability where you can just sit down and play and play and play. It's not like a Twilight Zone game is not really a super fast, flow game either. But there's so much going on, and the progression through the doors that it's a great home pinball machine. And then a game like I don't know, like a Medieval Madness style where you can get some flow going, sort of, or not a great example, but something like maybe No Fear, where there's tons of flow. That's a good only game, I think. Whereas this one might not be, but I'm just in love with the theme. I'm in love with all the concepts, so I'd love to have it someday. Probably won't ever drop the money on it, but I think it's a pretty neat one that you should go out of your way to go play. One of the emails I got after the last episode was just simply asking me if we could do more of the going up, going down segment. So to that I say, yes.
Going up?
Going down.
Going up, going down. So what we're talking about here is pinball machines that are either increasing in value, increasing in popularity, or just, under more of a spotlight, versus games that maybe are fading or are taking a hit in value. So for the going up machine that I'd like to talk about, and this one I think is clear as day if you look into it a little bit, the Data East Star Wars game. This game is ranked right now number 81 on the Pinside Top 100. It's a Data East game, remember, which a lot of people, don't love their Data East games. what I did is I went and I looked through the Boston Pinball sales archives on this game because I had a feeling what I was going to see on this one. And they have tracked eBay sales, and granted eBay sales aren't the only indicator, but I think it's kind of a good nationwide indicator of what things are selling for. And Data East Star Wars is currently, right now, average price in 2013, I think they've sold, 10 of them this year on eBay have sold for just over an average price of $3,100. The previous 90 months, or excuse me, the entire 90-month average since they've been tracking these sales, this game was just over $2,000. So not only is that a full $1,000 more, but more importantly, that's a 50% increase in price of this game, average sale price on eBay. I did some national Craigslist searching, and the cheapest one I found was $2,400, and I sort of almost, it kind of took the wind out of myself. I was like, oh, maybe I'm wrong, because that's not that bad. And then I started reading the description of the game, and it was not very good. It was pretty rough. You know, I had big scrapes on the cabinets, lots of little problems, things drilled in the playfield to block off shots. So it was pretty clear to me why it was $2,400. Most of the ones I saw on Craigslist national searches were more like, $3,500. All of them on eBay are, there's one starting at $3,000, an open auction, not a buy it now, but an auction starting at $3,000, all the way, the rest of them are all closer to $4,000 buy it now. So clearly there's been a resurgence in Star Wars. I would say that the theme is obviously one of those themes that collectors of that theme will buy anything. Star Wars fans are, obviously very, very into what they're into. Fanatic, I mean, they're fans, they're fanatic, yeah. So that's part of it. But if you dig a little deeper on this one, the real reason why I think this game has especially jumped up is in December of 2012, Stern actually released a ROM update that a pinball enthusiast kind of worked on privately and then had Stern release it on their website. And it was the 20th anniversary of this pinball machine. It was a ROM update that added a bunch of features. It fixed the scoring. Like I said, Star Wars fans are crazed about their stuff. So somebody actually dug through this machine's logic and computer settings, and I'm blanking on all the tech names, not a tech guy myself, but basically what he did is he wrote new code, that's what I'm looking for, and he added a ball save feature, which I think we can all appreciate. It drives me nuts when games don't have ball save features. That's in the new ROM update. He evened out the scoring. He actually made a few things a little more difficult to kind of get rid of certain exploits. There were some ramp shot exploits that I know he balanced those out. He changed the distribution of extra balls, I believe was another one, so that it made more sense. There was I believe it's a subway to the lower right of the playfield, if I remember. I did play this game at Pinball Wizard this week. It's the Jabba the Hutt shot. Didn't really do much. It was almost way more troubleshooting for it than it was worth, and I know he added some features to that. So that's all really good stuff. So this came out, and if you go and look at the Pinside, forums and read about, this particular Daddy Star Wars game, people were pretty excited. So with all of these new rule sets and stuff, I think people who might have not really loved the game before have now given it another shot, but it's driving the price up on that game. I think it's a pretty fun game. I'm into it. I'm not a Data East hater by any means. I think their games have a certain vibe and feel to them that I can appreciate for the right price. I wouldn't pay $3,000 for this game, certainly. But if I was really into Star Wars, maybe. It's a pretty neat game. So that's definitely the game that right now I see going up. Going down. A game that I don't like at all, and a theme that I don't like at all. I'm pulling out the 2005 Stern title, NASCAR. So NASCAR is now ranked 162nd on the Pinside Top 100, and I just almost feel that that's inexcusable. This was a Pat Lawler design, which sort of breaks my heart, but that in 2005... a modern-day pinball company could build a game with a great designer like Lawler, and now it be the 162nd rated game by pinball fans. That's just sort of sad. I think the theme likely doesn't resonate with a large population. Those who it does resonate with, NASCAR fans and that sort of auto racing enthusiasts, probably love it. But I think that's the minority. It's a weird flow game. I mean, everyone always says, if you read the reviews, it's Pat Lawler built a flow game. Well, I guess. Right from the start, you launch the ball on NASCAR, on Stern NASCAR, and the ball launches and loops all the way around the playfield, all the way around the bottom, and then back up and out like it's a car taking a loop. The first time I saw this, I was like, oh my gosh, that is awesome. How very cool is that? And I'm assuming it's magnets that propel the ball away. I thought it was neat. Well, play the game for about 20 minutes, you're going to get really sick of having to watch that ball loop around and launch. I don't like it at all now. It's a very neat trick. There's a toy on the game. There's a bash car toy in there that they call the test car and kind of bash it. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't think anybody thinks of NASCAR. I mean, obviously there's car accidents and wrecks in a NASCAR race, but I don't know that bashing the car, I mean, what is this, Street Fighter 2? So I think the game's not holding up very well either. I see lots of people talking about how bad of shape they're in. There's one on location right by where I work in Southern California in a bowling alley, and it's a mess. It doesn't play very good. It's clunky. It has that weird, I talk about Stern had some of those games that just don't feel right, and in that era, and that's definitely one of them. So I did the same thing with this. I wanted to see what the values of this game were. So the average price for the 90 months that the Boston Pinball site tracks the eBay sales for NASCAR, the average selling price for the entire 90-month period is $2,800. Okay? The average price on the 10 games that have sold thus far in 2013, $2,000. So it's gone down $800 in average price during 2013 over its whole last 5 years. That's big time. There's also a bunch of them on eBay. I think there's 8 of them on eBay right now, all just sitting there, and they're all priced at $2,500 or best offer, by the way, for that one, and up, and they're all just sitting there. This is a game that definitely has lost popularity. It's definitely the luster is off this one. It's going down, and it's too bad. So if you're looking for a deal on a modern machine and you're into auto racing, I would say look at this right now, because this is going to be more of a value than some of the other games. So that's going up, going down. I'm only going to do one mailbag question tonight, so let's get right into that.
Check the email.
This was hilarious, and I thought it was a joke when I first read it. I'm not even going to say his name because he wasn't real friendly to me when I replied to him, but he wrote to me, and it was all lowercase typing with no hi Nate, or hey, like your show, or hate your show, or you should speak more clearly so people can understand your name, or whatever he was going to say. All he wrote was, please don't review Judge Dredd. I don't want the value to go up before I buy one. And I wrote back, I said, haha, that's pretty funny. I do love that game. Might have to review it someday. And he literally wrote back, I just asked you not to review it. So that's hilarious to me, because I think he's under the impression that there's enough people listening to my little podcast that could hear me say favorable things about a game that I think a lot of people already really like and drive the price up. So all I will say right now on Judge Dredd is I love the game. I love the art. I'm not very good at it, and it looks like it might be a maintenance nightmare to me, so I've always been a little scared. I love wide-body games, so it's definitely something that if I saw a deal on a Judge Dredd, I would be all over it. But to Mr. I won't say his name, but to the gentleman who does not want me to review Judge Dredd or say anything about it, I don't know what to tell you. My show, do what I want. Kind of like that. So, Judge Dredd, yay! So that kind of wraps things up. That's episode 8 of Coast to Coast Pinball. All I will say about episode 9 is it's coming quickly, probably in a couple days. There's a D-list wonder title that will be getting a little unlove from me, and probably going to answer some more mailbag questions, talk a little bit more about some games that I played this week. If there's anything you want me to talk about or don't want me to talk about, go ahead and send me an email. You can find me at Coast2Coast Pinball at gmail.com. That's Coast, the number 2 Coast Pinball at gmail.com. On Twitter, we're at Coast, excuse me, see, I screwed it up. It's at C2C Pinball, at C2C, letter C, number 2, letter C Pinball. And find me on Facebook, Coast to Coast Pinball. So until then, I hope you're all enjoying your summertime. Stay cool, and talk to you soon. Thanks, man.
And now, Dan Under voices the kid. Relax, kid. You won't feel a thing for a week. Ow! Punch his jaw! I'm your coach. You've done it! Climb the stairs, kid. Left jackpot! Flip, kid, flip! Outstanding! Kid, you're ready for the ring! Jackpot! And now, Knuckles O'Brien. Top of my fist to you, lad. I'm O'Brien.